I should have known something was wrong the second Dad pulled out that envelope. Thick, manila, sealed with a red wax stamp like some old-timey lawyer's prop. Confidential, it said in sharp black ink. He tucked it into his briefcase at the airport, his jaw tight, eyes avoiding mine. Mom was worse. Her fake smile twitched as she babbled about new beginnings while we boarded the flight to Iceland. I was too mad to care. Still fuming about the fight that got me expelled. My fault, sure. But their solution? Dragging me to a frozen island in the middle of nowhere? A fresh start, they called it. I didn't buy it then. I sure as hell don't now. The argument had been brutal. Dad's office, all glass and steel, felt like a courtroom. "You're throwing your life away, Emma," he'd barked, slamming my report card on the desk. Straight D's, 1 F in math. Mom just sat there, twisting her diamond ring, muttering about my phase. I'd yelled back, called them out for caring more about their image than me. 2 days later, they announced the Iceland trip. No discussion, just plane tickets and promises of northern lights. I was 17, barely 18 now, and they were already done with me. I should have seen the signs. Reykjavik was a lie from the start. Those first few days, picture perfect. We soaked in geothermal pools, the water steaming under a pink sky. Mom snapped Instagram shots, captioning them, "Family adventure," like we were the goddamn Brady Bunch. Dad even laughed once, pointing out a puffin waddling on a cliff. I let myself hope. Stupid, I know. At night, we chased the aurora, green ribbons dancing over snow-dusted hills. I felt something loosen in my chest, like maybe they meant it. Maybe this was a reset. Then I heard Mom's whisper. Middle of the night, our hotel room dark except for the glow of her phone. I was half asleep, curled under a wool blanket, when her voice cut through. "It's all set," she hissed. "Final plans are in place. She won't suspect a thing." My heart stuttered. I wanted to confront her, but fear glued me to the bed. Who was she talking to? What plans? The next morning she acted normal. Too normal. Day 4, they vanished. We'd moved to a remote hotel, a boxy building perched on a cliff, surrounded by nothing but black rock and howling wind. The kind of place where Wi-Fi was a rumor and the nearest town was a 40-minute drive. They said they were running a quick errand. Dad kissed my forehead, first time in years, and Mom hugged me, her perfume sharp and cloying. "Stay in the room, Emma," she said. "We'll be back soon." I didn't think much of it. I sprawled on the bed, scrolling through my phone until the battery died. Hours passed. The sky darkened. No sign of them. I knocked on their door. No answer. The handle wouldn't budge. Panic crept in, cold as the air seeping through the window. I checked the front desk, my boots squeaking on the polished floor. The clerk, a guy with a buzz cut and bored eyes, barely looked up. "They checked out," he said, tapping his keyboard. "Said you ran away." "What?" My voice cracked. "That's insane. They're my parents. They wouldn't—" "Room's cleared. Your keys deactivated." He slid a receipt across the counter. Their names, their signatures, a checkout time from 6 hours ago. My stomach dropped. I ran back upstairs, banging on their door until my fists ached. Nothing. No suitcases, no coats, no trace of them. Back in my room, I tore through my backpack. My passport, gone. My phone, disconnected, the screen flashing no service. I sank to the floor, breath hitching. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. Then I found the note, tucked in my jacket pocket, folded tight in Mom's looping handwriting. I unfolded it with shaking hands. "You're 18. You're not our problem anymore." The words hit like a slap. I read it again, then again, waiting for it to make sense. It didn't. My parents had abandoned me. In a foreign country, with nothing. The clerk was no help. "Call the embassy," he muttered, already turning away. But the lobby phone was dead, and my key card wouldn't unlock the front door. I pushed against it, desperation rising, until I realized I was locked out. Outside, the temperature was 10 degrees C, the wind slicing through my hoodie like a knife. I stumbled into the night, my breath clouding in front of me. The hotel's neon sign flickered, casting long shadows on the snow. I had no money, no phone, no plan. Just a note that burned in my pocket. I made it maybe 20 minutes before my fingers went numb. My sneakers weren't made for this. Ice crusted the laces and my toes ached with every step. I ducked into an alley, huddling behind a dumpster to block the wind. My teeth chattered so hard I bit my tongue, tasting blood. Hypothermia was real, and it was coming for me. I tried to focus, to think, but all I could see was Mom's smile. Dad's cold eyes, that damn envelope, what was in it? Why Iceland? Why me? A voice snapped me out of it. "You okay, kid?" A man loomed at the alley's mouth, maybe 40, wearing a leather jacket and a crooked grin. His accent was thick, his eyes too sharp. "You look lost." "I got a place. Warm bed, hot food." My gut screamed danger. I stood, legs wobbling, and backed away. "Come on," he pressed, stepping closer. "Give me your phone, collateral, you know." I didn't have a phone, but I wasn't about to tell him that. I bolted, slipping on ice, my heart hammering as his laughter echoed behind me. Trafficking! I'd seen enough true crime shows to know where this was going. I ran until my lungs burned, ending up in a deserted street lined with shuttered shops. My only goal was survival. I needed help, so I aimed for the U.S. Embassy, a vague memory from a travel guide. It took hours to find it, my sprained ankle throbbing from a bad step on the ice. The building was all glass and flags, a beacon in the dark. I pounded on the door, explaining through chattering teeth. The guard let me in. But the news was worse than I'd feared. "Your parents canceled your return flight," the consular officer said, her voice flat. "They removed you from their insurance and filed emancipation papers. Legally, you're on your own." She slid a form across the desk, their signatures glaring up at me. Emancipated, abandoned, same thing. "We can't force them to take you back," she added. "You're 18. I left in a daze, the officer's words looping in my head. My parents had planned this down to the last detail. I wandered Reykjavik streets, the city's cheer-twinkling lights, cozy cafes, mocking me. Hunger gnawed at my stomach. I hadn't eaten in 24 hours. Near a fish market, I tried scavenging, digging through a trash bin for anything edible. That's when the drunks found me. 3 of them, reeking of beer, their faces red from the cold. "Lost tourist," one jeered, snatching my jacket before I could react. Another shoved me, laughing as I hit the ground. My elbow scraped concrete, pain shooting up my arm. They circled, taunting, until a car's headlights scared them off. I scrambled away, clutching my phone, the only thing I had left. Its screen glowed with our last family photo. Mom's arm around me, Dad smirking, all of us in front of a Christmas tree. The smiles were fake. I knew that now. I ended up in a church doorway, the stone steps freezing against my back. Sobs tore through me, raw and unstoppable. I clutched the photo, my thumb smearing the screen. How had it come to this? What had I done to deserve it? The wind howled, carrying the distant clang of a bell. I was alone, truly alone, for the first time in my life. It drove me to stupidity. The next morning I slipped into a market, my hands shaking as I stuffed a loaf of bread under my shirt. The security guard was faster than I expected. "Thief!" he shouted, chasing me through the aisles. I sprinted out, the bread falling, my ankles screaming with every step. The docks were my only escape, rusted fishing boats and nets tangled along the harbor. I ducked behind a crate, holding my breath as his flashlight swept past, too close. I didn't see the ice. One wrong step and I was down, sliding toward the water. My hands clawed at the ground, but the harbor's edge came fast. I hit the shallow water, gasping as the cold seized my chest. My sprained ankle twisted again, pain blinding me. I dragged myself out, soaked and shivering, and limped to the only shelter I could find, a condemned warehouse on the outskirts. Its windows were boarded, the air inside thick with mold. I curled up on a pile of cardboard, using more to cover myself. The wind screamed through the cracks, a sound like ghosts wailing. Sleep didn't come. Fear did. Days blurred. I survived on scraps, half-eaten apples, crusts from cafe bins. My body ached, my ankles swollen, but giving up wasn't an option, not yet. Then, one morning, I made a mistake. A cafe, small and gritty, smelled of fresh coffee. I couldn't resist. I snuck behind the counter, grabbing a handful of coffee grounds to boil later. A hand clamped my wrist. "Stealing's a bad habit," the woman said. She was old, maybe 70, with gray hair pulled into a messy bun and eyes like steel. Her name was Astrid, she said, and she owned the place. I braced for a lecture, maybe a call to the cops. Instead, she tilted her head, studying me. "You look like hell, kid. Work for me, and you get a cot. Deal?" I stared, suspicious. Nobody helped for free. But the cold was killing me, and her offer was all I had. "Deal?" I muttered, my voice hoarse. She led me to the cafe's basement, a damp room with a single cot and a flickering bulb. It wasn't much, but it was better than the warehouse. As I sank onto the cot, exhaustion pulling me under, I realized something. Astrid was my lifeline, but lifelines come with strings, and I had a feeling hers were tangled in something dangerous. The note in my pocket felt heavier than ever. "You're not our problem anymore." Fine. I'd make myself someone else's problem, starting with Astrid. The cafe's basement smelled of damp concrete and stale coffee, but it was home now. My cot sagged in the corner, a thin blanket barely keeping the chill at bay. Astrid's deal worked for shelter, kept me alive, but every dish I scrubbed felt like a reminder I was nobody, with nothing. Still, I clung to the note in my pocket, its cruel words fueled. "You're not our problem anymore." I'd proved them wrong. Astrid's Cafe was a gritty hub, its wooden tables scarred from years of spilled beer and fishermen's knives. Cod haulers and dock workers filled the seats, their voices loud, their hands rough. I scrubbed floors, washed dishes, and dodged leers, my arms aching by noon. Astrid watched me like a hawk, her gray eyes sharp but not unkind. She'd caught me stealing coffee grounds that first day, but instead of turning me in, she'd offered a lifeline. I didn't trust it. People don't help for free. One night, digging through the cafe's trash for anything useful, I found a broken laptop, screen cracked, keys missing. My fingers itched. Back in Chicago, I'd tinkered with computers, nothing fancy, just enough to bypass school firewalls. This was different. I scavenged parts from a pawn shop's junk bin, using my first week's tips. Nights in the basement under that flickering bulb, I rebuilt it. Free Wi-Fi from a nearby bar got me online. YouTube tutorials taught me to code. It was slow, messy, but it felt like power. My first hack was small but sweet. A fisherman, Björn, ran a scam website, overcharging tourists for authentic cod. I redirected his profits to a Reykjavik homeless shelter. 200 euros gone in a click. The shelter's thank you post on X lit up my screen. I grinned, heart racing. Astrid saw the post too, her eyebrow raised, but she said nothing. That silence, it was trust. Or a test. I wasn't sure which. The cafe's rhythm became my life. Mornings, I served coffee to bleary-eyed sailors. Afternoons, I studied for an online GED, math problems blurring together. Nights, I coded, my laptop's hum drowning out the wind. But trouble wasn't far. Astrid's Cafe was drowning in debt. I overheard her arguing with a loan shark, a greasy guy named Magnus, his voice low and threatening. "Pay up, old woman, or this place burns." She slammed the door in his face, but her hands shook. I knew that fear. It mirrored mine. I couldn't let her lose the cafe, not after she'd saved me. So I hacked Magnus's accounts, skimming just enough, €3,000, 0 cents, to cover Astrid's debt. I funneled it through a fake invoice, my fingers trembling as I hit enter. The next day, Astrid's shoulders relaxed, the loan shark gone, but I'd poked a bear. 2 nights later, his enforcers trashed the cafe. Tables flipped, windows smashed, a note pinned to the counter. Stop stealing or you're dead. Astrid's eyes locked on me, suspicion flaring. What did you do, kid? I confessed, voice small. She sighed, then nodded. Gutsy. Stupid, but gutsy. Respect, grudging, but real. My hacks didn't stop. I targeted small-time crooks, scammers, slumlords, redirecting their cash to shelters, clinics, anyone who needed it. On X, whispers spread about Ghost, a coder helping Iceland's underdogs. I didn't claim the name, but it stuck. Every hack was a risk, but it was also a high. I was invisible, untouchable, or so I thought. Then I found the laptop's real treasure, my parents' old cloud account, still linked to an email I knew. Curiosity burned. I cracked it in an hour. Photos, documents, lies. They were in California now, posting on Instagram about their new chapter, a Malibu mansion, a yacht, all while claiming I'd chosen to stay in Iceland. Rage choked me, but one file stopped me cold. Project Exodus. A single page, encrypted, mentioning an offshore bank and a $2 million 0 cents transfer. My parents, corporate lawyer and socialite, were into something dirty. I didn't know what, but I'd find out. Astrid dropped another bomb. Late one night as I swept the cafe, she poured 2 whiskeys and slid one to me. I've been tracking your parents, she said, voice low. They're tied to someone I lost. Her daughter, she explained, had vanished 20 years ago after crossing a tech mogul. Astrid's eyes darkened. Your folks aren't clean, Emma. They're in deep. My stomach twisted. Was her daughter dead? Were my parents involved? Astrid wouldn't say more, but her words lingered, a puzzle I couldn't solve. I needed money, real money, to dig deeper. My savings, €200, 0 cents from cafe tips, were a joke. Then I stumbled on a failing Icelandic geothermal startup, its stock at rock bottom. Hacked data from a rival server showed a merger coming. I invested every cent, my heart in my throat. A week later, the stock soared. My €200, 0 cents became €5,000, 0 cents. I bought Astrid a new coffee machine, its chrome gleaming in the cafe's dim light. She hugged me, rare and fierce, but I kept my plan secret. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. The money gave me leverage, but danger closed in. A rival hacker traced my IP, his message chilling. Join my crew, Ghost, or I expose you to Magnus. I deleted it, but fear gnawed at me. Then came the police raid. My fake Icelandic ID, cobbled together to stay off the grid, nearly got me caught when cops swept the docks for undocumented workers. I hid in a fish crate, the stench choking me, their boots inches away. Too close, always too close. Astrid pushed me to my limit. The cafe's lease was up, and a corrupt politician, Gunnar, was jacking the rent to force her out. Hack his emails, she said, her voice steel. Find dirt. Save this place. I hesitated. Hacking for good was one thing. This felt like crossing a line. But Astrid's eyes held something raw. Hope, maybe. Or desperation. I couldn't say no. It took 3 sleepless nights, but I cracked Gunnar's server. Emails, bribes, proof he'd taken kickbacks to sink local businesses. I leaked it to a Reykjavik news site, anonymous. The scandal broke the next day. Gunnar resigned, the lease was renewed, and Astrid slipped me a burner phone. Freedom, she called it, her smile proud. I'd saved her cafe, but at what cost? Ghost was getting noticed, and not just by the good guys. The victory was short-lived. Astrid found a U.S. foreclosure notice online. My parents' Malibu mansion, listed under a shell company. Why buy a $2 million 0 cents house while claiming poverty? I dug into Project Exodus, tracing the offshore bank to a network of coded transactions. My parents weren't just frauds. They were players in something bigger, something dangerous. I needed answers, and Isalom wouldn't give them. Astrid had an idea. "Go to California," she said, pouring coffee at dawn. "Confront them. I'll come as your backup." She'd pose as my lawyer, she said, her hacker past making her a pro at deception. I booked the flights with my stock profits, my hands shaking. Returning to America meant facing them, Mom's fake tears, Dad's cold stare. But it also meant truth. I was ready, or I thought I was. The plane's wheels hit the tarmac in LAX, and my stomach lurched. Astrid squeezed my hand, her grip steady. "You're not alone," she said. I nodded, but the note in my pocket burned. "You're not our problem anymore." They'd abandoned me, lied to the world, built a new life on fraud. Now I'd tear it down. The auction was our first stop. The mansion, all glass and ocean views, was up for grabs. Posing as cybersecurity consultants, we slipped in, my fake ID holding up, barely. Bidders filled the room, their voices sharp with greed. Then I saw him, Dad's old business partner, Victor, his eyes narrowing as they met mine. He bid hard, driving the price to $1,800,000 0 cents. I countered, heart pounding, using my stock cash and a risky loan I'd secured through a coded deal. When the gavel fell, the mansion was mine. Victor's warning followed, "You don't know what you're stepping into." His voice was a blade, and I felt its edge. We arranged to meet my parents at a neutral spot, a sleek cafe in Santa Monica. Astrid sat beside me, her lawyer persona flawless. My scarf hid the scar from my Iceland fall, the one from nearly drowning in that harbor. When they walked in, Mom's perfume hit me first. The same cloying scent from Reykjavik. They didn't recognize me until I lowered the scarf. Mom gasped. Dad froze. "Emma!" Mom's voice cracked, but her eyes were calculating. "You were a liability," she said. No warmth, no apology. "We had to protect our future," Dad mumbled. "I thought you'd die out there," his guilt hollow. I slid the deed across the table, my voice steady. "I own your life now." Mom's scream was raw, her hand clutching a locket, one I recognized. A photo inside. Astrid's daughter, staring back. Astrid's breath caught, but she stayed silent, her control iron. The eviction notice came next. Astrid delivered it, her voice icy. 30 days. Mom called me a monster, her face twisted. Dad just stared at the floor. I felt no pity, only fire. They'd built their empire on lies, and I'd burn it down. But the fight wasn't over. Their viral X thread painted me as a vindictive runaway, sparking trolls who doxed my fake ID. Astrid's truth hit harder. Her daughter, killed by the same criminal network my parents served. I hacked the offshore bank, leaking data that tied them to a global fraud ring. The arrests came fast. Mom and Dad, handcuffed, their empire dust. I watched from Reykjavik, Astrid's cafe my refuge. The mansion became my redemption. I turned it into a safe house for trafficked teens, dorms, tech labs, therapy rooms. Astrid taught coding, her tough love a mirror of our bond. I funded it anonymously, rejecting fame. The first open house was chaos and joy, girls coding, laughing, trusting again. I burned the note, whispering, "I didn't just survive, I won." On the balcony, Astrid and I watched the girls play, the Pacific glinting below. My laptop pinged. An encrypted email, sender unknown. "We know who you are, Ghost. You're not safe." My pulse spiked, but I smiled. Let them come. I was ready.